Welcome back, everybody. This is Racing Lawnmower Update number 14. So before we get too far into the build, I just wanted to show you guys I built some stands, there's two of them there, that actually support the racing mower on its own regard now. And I did that because this old desk I was using for the longest time, it was plenty adequate to build the racing mower on, but when I get into the final stages of mounting wheels and axles and chains and stuff like that, the desk just isn't going to work anymore. And you know, my desk is now a really good workstation. I've got a nice vise hooked up to it, some big flat fender washers on the bottom so you can't rip it out. Built myself a little shelf, put a bunch of stuff up there. Just trying to clean up, get organized so I can kind of work more efficiently. So in last week's Racing Lawnmower Update, we completed fabrication of the exhaust and some CVT belt guards. And I noticed that several users actually commented saying that they thought the exhaust might be in fact too close to your leg and that you should probably header wrap it or you could possibly get burned. But in reality it's really not that close. You can see the side upright support there of the hood, and you know, the belt guard is right there. I'll demonstrate for you how close your leg really sits to the exhaust, but it's really no closer than you would see it on like a dirt bike or a motorcycle or something of that nature. Alright, so this is basically a normal driver's seat position, and you can see my leg is actually right here, kind of in line with the steering support, and my belt guard actually does a great job at keeping your leg from being able to pivot inwards towards the engine or exhaust. And actually, as you can see, in a normal driving position, my leg is probably 4 to 5 inches away from the exhaust, so really I have no chance of really burning myself on that. Even if I leaned it in, I mean, that's my pants, but I still have, like, you know, 2 inches right there. I may do header wrap, as some users suggested, but that would probably be one of the last things I did to the racing mower after it was all done and assembled. But we'll see how it works out when I run it, see how hot it gets, and we'll go from there. I also get a lot of questions about people asking me about this clone motor and what I'm planning on doing with it, whether or not it's going to push all the weight of this frame. And believe me, in stock form, these Honda clones have plenty of power to move something this size. But if anyone knows me, they know that nothing stays unmodified for very long. Probably what I will do is run the engine in stock form for the first initial test run, and then we are going to literally build the living crap out of it and try to get as much power as I possibly can safely out of this thing. And with that being said, I'm surprised that no one has ever mentioned putting some sort of shield on this thing. I don't know if anyone's ever really noticed this, but the way this engine's set up is the piston, which you see would be basically right there, going back and forth this way, is aimed directly at your genitals. So me trying to think ahead, and you know, I don't want to lose my nuts riding this thing, I thought, you know, maybe it would be a good idea to build some sort of a shield there. So here was my simple solution to the problem. This is basically 1/4 inch thick flat steel stock, and I've welded it in a shape that should kind of work to go around the motor and beneath the seat and hood. I've drilled 2 holes right there and 2 holes right there, and those made up with those 2 holes right there and those 2 holes up there. You can kind of see, it's like right there. So that's pretty much it. It's just 4 3/8 inch thick bolts. I wanted some thick ones, and you can see it just kind of comes over the top of the motor, down, and then back to the frame. The worst case scenario, this whole thing, if the piston came flying out or the head came flying off, this whole thing might bend back, but at least it would keep it from impacting your body. And with the hood and seat on there, you can see that it misses them both quite nicely. And the reason this whole thing bolts on is because I wanted to maintain the ability to remove it and pull my valve cover off if I ever needed to service the rocker arms or check valve lash. And I also made it really small because I didn't want it taking away from the aesthetics of the engine, and I can also still access my spark plug with a wrench and everything else if I need to. So the first thing we're going to do today is weld the new flat steel genital protection device all together solid. Just because it's only tack welded into place, I want to get that finished up, and then we're going to start in on some grinding on the frame, and I actually have to adjust something on the brakes because I screwed up. Now you're probably asking, what did I screw up on the brakes? And you can see the flat steel support there that I just talked about is perfectly straight up and down, and the box steel support here is actually perfectly straight up and down. However, for some reason, when I mounted the brake caliper mounting bracket, I did not use a square, and you can see that it is not perfectly straight. So I have to kind of cut her loose, straighten it out, and weld it back up again. Alright, so she's all welded, and I actually even welded in a little piece of box steel in there sort of as a gusset. Little extra strength right where she needs it. So we'll see how this thing fits once it cools off. Well, there, we got her bolted into place. A little mount there, everything clears nicely. I had to get a little persuasive here with the 450mm iron bowl. Just a gigantic adjustable wrench. I used it to bend these tabs because everything moved while I was welding, but all is good now. So there with the hood on, you can see that it actually hides the bolts for the mounting bracket for this shield thing, but actually this hood is going to be trimmed something similar to like that, but in doing that it's going to expose all of that, and I'm kind of trying to think of a way in the future where I'm going to mount my key switch and my tether switch and all that stuff. So I came up with this little diamond plate, dash plate if you will. That way I can have my key switch and my tether switch, and I'll probably get one of those tachometers and mount that right there in the middle so it's looking you right in the face so you don't over rev the engine, causing mass testicular destruction. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pull the motor and exhaust off the frame. I don't really need those on there anymore. And I'll go ahead and drill the holes for my dash plate that I just showed you. I also got to fix the brake caliper mount I showed you earlier. And then I think I'm going to add one more mounting point to the engine mounting plate, because if I'm going to be pushing like 14, 15 horsepower with this thing possibly, then I think I should probably have it a little bit stronger just to be safe. So we got the engine pulled off there. I put the exhaust back on it just to kind of check it out. And I kind of want to start it up and listen to it. Don't you guys? Yeah, I think you do. So obviously this thing has no fuel tank. I've got a piece of plastic wrapped around the fuel line so my funnel will funnel gas in. Oops. Let's clean that up. Don't need any fires in the garage. Let's see if she'll go. Oh, she fired right up. Holy crap. Gotta watch out for that exhaust. This thing's jumping all around. Sounds pretty good, but I think a cam and some porting will make it sound better. Yeah, that was pretty awesome, but it's time to get back on track. So there, the dash plate's all done. Bling bling! Alright, so we got everything all removed now. As you can see, obviously we're pretty much down to bare frame. And the first thing I'm going to do is reinforce this engine mount. And for that, I got a couple pieces of box steel. And I'm going to drop them in here and slide them forward. So they sit roughly, you know, in here, but underneath obviously. I kind of screwed myself with the steel mesh and everything, but I think I'll be fine. I can get to most of the welds on this side from the top, and I can probably sneak in from the bottom and get what I need to do what I need to do. Perfect. So we got our motor mount supports welded into place. I was able to get quite a bit of welding done in there, so I'm pretty confident they're very sturdy. The next thing we're going to attack is that crooked brake caliper mount. Yeah, that's way off. That's dead on. You can see the brake caliper is much straighter now. We're going to let that cool off along with the engine mount because that's all still pretty hot. And you can see by outside the window it's pretty dark right now, so we're going to call it a night. It's getting pretty late, and I'm going to come back out here tomorrow morning and finish it up. Day 2, getting back at it, and what a difference a day makes. It's like 50 degrees today. It was like 30 yesterday, so there's like way less of a need to heat the garage, which is awesome. But it's time to get back to work. Now I had one little last minute idea, as I usually do, and it involves these nerf bars. And nothing really wrong with them. I like the way that they are, but I'm actually thinking I want to add some small supports, like right there. I got these little 3/4 inch pieces of box steel cut at 45-degree angles, and I'm just going to weld them in there just as a little extra support for the top, and it'll be aesthetically a little cooler too, I think. So we got those little brackets all welded in. I think it looks pretty cool with them in there. Kind of gives it a neat look, but that's pretty much it for those. Time to start with grinding everything. Like these welds, I gotta round off the corners on these brackets and stuff. Just basically neaten everything up so I can do a final assembly. So we're making small amounts of headway. And as you can see, I've definitely got my work cut out for me here. There's a lot of grinding. So I'm not going to make you guys watch me grind for endless amounts of time, so I'm just going to call it a night here, and I'm just going to chip away on this during the week. I ordered a crap load of chassis parts for the racing mower, and those will hopefully be in by next weekend, so we can start some reassembly. Going to get a new seat, and that's pretty cool. That's basically it. Paul and I here are going to go in and play some freaking Xbox because we want to, and that's what we do when we're bored. So we'll catch you next week, guys. See you later.